everyone. I'm Varnika Goel, Senior Research Analyst at Twimbit. Joining me today is Shelly. Hi, Shelly. How are you doing?
Hi, Vanika. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Welcome to the Virtual Banking Leadership Insights. And what I heard from you is that you're a veteran traditional banking uh, analyst or a leader, and now you've moved to digital banking space. Why don't you tell us more about yourself?
Thanks, Vanika. Yeah, when you say veteran, yeah, it's been a long journey starting from traditional banking. We'll say ICICI Bank 2 decades back when it was evolution of banking system, and then passing through credit card industry, India card industry with SBI, and then now entering the fintech space from last 3 years. It's been incredible journey. I think looking at all the changes what we have experienced in entire ecosystem. Yeah,
Right.
wonderful.
That's lovely. So, because you say that you belong to the traditional side and now moving to fintech, one of the things that we've seen is that SMEs and consumer lending is one of the pain points in the banking industry. And what has led to that is there are lots of fintech companies coming in place to actually fill that gap. So, where do you think the momentum of the industry lies? Do you think that they are actually able to fill this gap?
They have just started. In fact, if you ask me, yes, on consumer lending space, it's been now more than 5 years. The space on B2C side is kind of stabilized. But when we talk about MSME, it just came up like in 2 years back. So industry is still evolving in terms of fintechs are still trying to solve those pain points. So there are pain points. We already agreed to that. So MSME segment, especially in that micro segment, where is a very small ticket size where people are looking up to capital, and
Right.
traditional bankers have always been very conservative in releasing that. The capital flow is not that seamless, as we say in the B2C space with the fintech entry. It's been
Right.
regularized, yeah. So that kind of, yeah, there's a lot of gap. I would see the opportunity for fintech in MSME is huge. It may be
Right.
disrupted or deferred by some time due to COVID, but I think a huge potential to tap on. Yeah.
So, if you say there's a huge potential to tap on, but what we see is that the NPL ratios are very, what we say is high. When we could talk about Sri Lanka, which is 3.4, we talk about India, which is 9.3%, and when we talk about Bangladesh, it's 11.4%. So, with respect to APAC region, don't you think that making this a digitized platform-based culture and then coming up with different products, customized products, will increase this ratio, will lead to more risk factor involved?
Not really. So if we
Mhm.
go back to the NPA percentage, especially in India, when we spoke about it's higher on the 8 to 9% segment, and which compared
Right,
to individual lending side, these are 2 to 2.5%, right? So huge
right,
gap. You lend to. If you look at other way, MSME has to be more risk mitigated segment where you have the presence and the availability of the person whom you are lending is more stable, but it's a vice
right.
versa, which should not be the case. I think
Mhm.
that sorry, that contribute to more of the traditional credit assessment risk scoring model which traditional banks have always been adopting in terms of going back the paperwork and then looking at traditional norms of evaluating balance sheets and those financials. Those were very,
Right,
I would say, theoretical approach to lending. So
right,
why I won't see those kind of NPAs with fintechs, because they have more robust system of risk assessment. When we talk about tech, they have alternate model where they see the
Mhm.
behavior of an individual. They see the data now with the GST in place. You have various
Right.
statements, then we have the digital payments, the POS
Mhm.
transaction. You can always go through and you can assess that behavior of repayment. I think that
Mhm.
will mitigate when you talk about the NPA risk. I don't see that would be those levels.
Interesting you say that. So, so when we talk about changing that, and platform or fintech companies are having a more robust risk management assessment system, and one of the things that I've seen in my study is that APAC is growing very fast as compared to the Western countries. So why do you think there is this maximum growth? Do you think that it's more because the gap itself is too big and the opportunity is too much, or do you think that we have suddenly realized that the Western world has done a lot of advancement and we are falling back?
Absolutely, yeah. I couldn't agree. Yeah, that is one of the point when we say on the
Right.
product and on the digitization side. So Western world has reached a kind of saturated point where the
Right.
adoption rate is now declining. When we say as digital adoption rate for APAC countries, nearly 80 to 85%, where the Europe and the US is lying at 48, 49%. So that
Right.
says what you are saying, the saturation of the market. But the other
Mhm.
point is when we talk about APEC, so it covers world's most part of world's unbanked population. One is the population as it is when we talk about India, it's China, and the other part is the
Mhm.
unbanked population. So that has been just started, getting covered from last 5 to 6 years, especially with
Right.
the internet drive when mobile penetration came in space 5 to 6 years
Right.
back or 7 years back, and that has driven people towards the digitization. So yes, the interest for globally for investors and for people who want to enter the
Mhm.
market, it's very
Right.
lucrative market because it has all the potential. You can have all experiments with the products. You can
Right.
enter anytime. Regulatory is now supporting because if you talk about
Mhm.
Europe and US, that time they had struggled with the regulatory challenges as well. But now the
Mhm.
governments have started working in easing out people, entry. So that
Right.
is, yeah, it's gonna be.
In so one of the things you mentioned that the regulations have started coming into play. The governments have started to support. So where do you think the push lies in terms? Is the reg tech now as strong as Western countries in our APAC region that these measures, or you mean the acceleration of digital adoption is much higher?
Acceleration is higher, but that still needs to be addressed, I suppose. So regulatory framework definitely supporting. Governments are supporting in terms of fiscal policy, in terms of easing out consumer journey side. But on the
Mm-hmm.
technology environment, I think there we are lagging behind, especially if you talk about RegTech. And recently, government of India has announced three tech system where one is FinTech, then we RegTech, and then the supervisory tech. Right. So
Right.
these three systems we have to just catch up. It's
Yeah.
I won't say it's way behind, but it's just
Yeah.
following because the changes happening in the fintech market, especially if you see in the COVID environment, suddenly everything changed. The payment behavior, right? The
Right.
consumption slowed down. It moved from lifestyle item to essentials. So
Yes.
that regulatory framework is not too agile to change immediately. That takes time. So we
Right.
need the RegTech environment who can quickly catch
Mhm.
up the changes in the regulatory framework required as per the consumer behavior changes and product
Right.
changes. There are a lot of product customization happening. So that
Mhm.
RegTech has to be robust enough to follow those changes with that speed. I think that is something we should look at in the next 2 3 years.
Right. And when you talk about challenges, what do you think from fintech perspective? I wouldn't say from customer perspective because the customer is still getting to know that what is it at their pursuit, what can they adopt versus what is available. But from a fintech perspective, or getting into the consumer lending market or the SME lending market, what do you think are some of the challenges that you face?
If we specifically talk about MSME, I think the huge challenge is awareness. So
Right.
the population size, they are not very technology averse. So
Mhm.
they are not used to of using technology. They don't trust that part. First, you have to create that awareness. Second is localization of those, because if you see most of the players who are entering the market are from global investors, right?
Right.
So they have to adopt that technological vernacular environment to go down to those levels and identify what is the product market fit. So
Right.
that, I think, the biggest challenge we had always had been with the traditional banks. There was one product,
Mhm.
very limited product, where they have to offer everyone, and there is no customization. I think that's
Mhm.
where the entrant has to look for now. If the product market fit is correct, and they can actually um, engage the consumers to their understanding, I think
Mhm.
that solves it all.
Great. So, when you talk about the product in terms of the platform, the digital only platform, how do you think the customer is adaptive to it? And do you think customer experience has become one of the essential things for the space, the fintech space, to become successful?
Absolutely. I think customer stickiness is one thing. And so starting with the biggest challenge becomes the customer acquisition. So once you
Right,
acquire the customer, because that has the biggest cost. So when we talk about fintechs entering the market, they have to spend a lot of cost on the distribution channels and to acquire these customers. That is
right.
that solves 40% of the problem at least. When you have identified how to acquire an MSME customer, and the second
Uh-huh.
problem statement comes with the stickiness, keeping them
Right.
retained. But so that's what you have mentioned about the engagement part, how you
Yes.
make them adapt to your product. One is
Right.
your starting with fintech is adapt to your app or portal or website or anything, and then adapt
Right.
to your product. So I have seen like companies have gone and very innovative way to
Mhm.
engage customers, where they are offering different kind of online gaming. Then they have the neo banking kind of products, which solves very small problems, maybe small
Mhm.
insurance or small cross functional products, where they are trying to solve a bigger set of a problem, not just providing the
Right.
lending part of it. Maybe for
Right.
MSME, they are solving the account keeping, bookkeeping, they're solving their
Mhm.
receivables, they're solving. So that way you have to create a product. And they may not be
Interesting.
necessarily only lending.
Yeah, of course, I agree. So, when you say that, we need to create a customized product, we need to solve those challenges for the customer. What do you think is the backbone for you to understand how the customer what kind of product we need to put out into the market? How do you think the tech comes in place? How do you think the data falls in place?
Tech, tech definitely. How tech comes in place is because how you create a behavior. We spoke about the cost,
Right,
which is getting involved in the acquisition of a customer. You can't think
right,
of today's environment getting going down to brick and mortar and opening every shop in each corner of the country and acquire
right,
customers. Because when we talk about MSME, the breakup would be 40, maybe 30 to 40% in metros and 60% lying in tier 2, tier 3 and onward cities, right? There you can't
right,
enter the brick and mortar space. You don't want to invest that cost. And
right,
that's then you are in the shoes of traditional bankers, which you would not want to be, right? You are
right.
talking about digital journey. So tech is
Mhm.
the backbone, I would say, because those that segment. So one, when we talk about the mobile penetration, I'm coming back to that. So one is the
Mhm.
smartphone penetration, and we still have certain population limited to feature phone. So now I have
Right,
identified people as a fintech have to solve that problem. Is your product can entertain your population from the feature phone environment? And then that is there is a smartphone environment. So you have
right.
to solve both problems. Their tech comes in picture. Then
Yes.
your population do not understand your English parlance, your
Hmm.
English language. You
Right,
have to customize to vernacular language. There you have to take a decision. Which
right.
languages. India, 28
Yes,
to 30 languages. You may not adapt to everything. You have to choose your
yes,
segment. You have to
true.
choose your geography. So a lot of
Right.
tech analytic. I think here it comes artificial intelligence and the machine learning. You have to run through a very
Right.
yeah.
Great. So, when we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about the drivers. One of the things that really intrigued me is that we've seen an evolution, what you say, in your 20 years journey. What do you think is going to be the next evolution in digital banking, or now that we call it as virtual and neo banking? What do you think will be the next 10 years? How do they look like?
Lot of things. I think this this market has a lot of potential because we already discussed a problem which is yet to be
Right,
solved. So if we say,
right.
I'll give you an example and little
Mhm.
degrading from this MSME. I'm coming to again
Hmm.
consumer lending, where we have solved a
Right.
major problem of moving from paper journey to digital journey. Most of the things have
Right.
solved, except few things on the NACH or NPCI side which they are working on.
Right.
But yes, now, but still, most of our consumer lending is also dependent upon bureau scoring, which now we
Okay.
are still identifying way of getting out of it. That is one part of it. And coming back to MSME, I think we have just started. So how I see it, 10 years, I see everybody is on GST, I see everything on mobile, and there is no inventory check, and everything is roaming on the app. So that is one part. Other view to that is the neo banking environment, where we have a diverse kind of products for diverse population, where people pick and choose, and that is only possible with the government collaboration on the regulatory framework, with the liquidity in the market, which is free to flow, where people can avail, and there should not be very considerate portfolio fintechs have to create in terms of risk modeling, the mitigation. We would not want to create those set of NPAs which we spoke about in the beginning, right? So every model, every product framework had to be really designed well. So we address the customer experience, we address the risk mitigation, we address our book,
Yes.
all of it, I think.
Interesting. So that makes me come to my final question is, and I ask this very often because it's one of the most interesting things right now because we're living in the COVID situation. So how do you think, what would be the imperatives right now as COVID is going on and we're getting into the unlock mode? So what do you think will be the imperatives of the banking industry in post-COVID-19 era?
So, lot of opportunities, especially for this segment, I would say.
Right.
We have seen a setback in terms of this has come to a pause. If you're talking about the lending side, not on the
Right.
so there are three legs to it. I would say one is the payment, one is on the consumption side, which consumption is, I think, the maximum hit. We have seen due to the people were not able to expose to spending environment, e-commerce, and lifestyle products. And but the payment side, it has added a lot of value in terms of there are new digital users who have added to the digital segment, and in a survey I think by BCG, they have identified 50% of them would not like to go back to traditional norms. I think that's a good news. When you have additional users of 10%, those will add to your one is your in terms of lending consumption in future a credit worthy customers, and then they will create that spend behavior for themselves, and more divergence from net banking to mobile banking. That is one aspect of it, which is added a. While I think COVID has helped in terms of some changes which could take another 3 to 4 years, that has happened in months. So people have started adopting things. People understood that even essentials can be bought with the digital payments. On the fund transfer side, people have started believing in that tech system, and they have stopped going to ATMs, and they have started believing in the, as I said, in the mobile banking. Yeah, so it has helped, and even if we after we come out of it strongly, I'm sure in next 2 months, the economy will revive with all the policy push our government has given. So that I would see another credit demand will increase. The only point it has to be very careful about the risk assessment of these customers, where we have seen a gap of credit history for last 3 to 4 months. We don't have that. Another push which we are receiving the moratorium side, which may not be a deferment of payment for the fintechs, but it is an ease for consumer side.
Yes.
Yeah, it's ease on consumer side, but how well companies adapt that and get advantage of, because in moratorium also fintechs have got an advantage of postponement of NPA marking. Right. There are a lot of factors which gonna help, and once economy opens, I think there are a lot of credit demand gonna happen, which is already backed by this 20 lakh crore package, which is announced by our finance minister. So something good out of it.
Something good out of it, definitely. Interesting. So these are great insights. Thank you, Shelly, for joining us today. We look forward for more conversations with you. This was really helpful and interesting.
Thank you so much, Varnika. My pleasure to have an interesting conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.